Welcome folks to 2 Degrees Down. We're back here at Caboolture. It's a lovely Sunday morning and we're with Conrad and Tony. They're going to go up in the tiger moth, and what we're going to focus on today, we're just going to look basically just on the pre-flight of the tiger moth. So for those folks who fly, or those who is ever interested, it's just a little bit of a overview of what the pilot looks at before the flight. I'll take it from there. Welcome, Conrad, again. So I'll leave it to you. You can just walk around with you.
So what I start off with is I'll just get my tools out. Made a little tool roll. Just put them in here, just so it reminds me what to do as part of the pre-flight. Just dump everything there. I leave that one in my back pocket actually. In this pocket. The reason why I leave this in my pocket, that's the fuel drain. And if you get into the aircraft and you've got something irritating you, then you know you haven't done the fuel, because that will be sitting there irritating you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you always remember, if you're sitting down, oh, and there's something irritating you, well, you have to do the fuel drain. So what I normally do, and you can stand this side, I'll show you what I do the pre-flight in cockpit checks. I've connected the batteries over there. So what we can do is check the batteries, see if it's working. Number 1 is working, just look at my radio station, make sure I'm on the correct channels there, and number 2 is working. The main reason is for the radio. The second thing is to pump fuel, which is in the front, up to the top tank if I need that. Start off on the left here. This is what they call the trim. It's not really a true trim. All it is a spring-loaded mechanism which pushes the stick forward or back. It doesn't work on any controls as such, just on the stick, putting pressure forward or back to make it easier when you fly. And then I'll push this forward, and you'll hear a click coming from the engine.
Okay.
And when I bring it back, that click closes the air inlet, which causes hot air to stay in the engine. That's like the carb icing, like an old-fashioned carb icing. So push forward again. So when you feel that you might have carb icing, which is due to temperature and cold in the air, so moisture and cold in the air, at a certain point, it can happen at different points. When you pull it back, which is quite far back, to get the carb icing, so your engine's RPM's going to drop, but at least it'll start letting warm air into the carburetor, which hopefully will melt the ice.
Like the carb heat.
It's carb heat.
Carb heat, yeah.
So I'll check my controls, and you can look at the controls on that side. I'm going to move them over. So I'm moving to the left. But you can see it goes initially left, and it goes back up. That was designed by Jeffrey the Handland, so it doesn't keep going left.
Okay.
To prevent adverse aileron effect. So you can see on the control, this is what I did to cause that, all the way over to the left.
Okay.
And to the right now, but that one keeps going all the way.
I see.
So it's more effective going down than it is going up.
Okay.
And of course, on the other side, I'll do the opposite. And then I look at my rudder and my elevator at the back, putting the stick back, making sure everything's connected nicely, and pushing it forward. I can't reach down to the pedals, so I'll check that just before we take off. Working from the left, all my mags are off. We set this to the QNH or to the altitude of the airfield. The airfield's 40 feet. So I can set it to 40 feet because that's probably quite accurate at the moment. That's not knots, that's looking good. Compass, we're going to head off on the southeasterly heading for starters. Down to Beachmere. So I'll set that. This is your turn, your slip indicator and your turn indicator. When we turn left, that one goes out. We've got to keep that one in the middle the whole time. That's our slip indicator. So if it goes that way, I have to give left rudder. If it goes that way, I have to give right rudder. It's not like the newer balls that you try and keep the ball in the middle. There's an inclinometer over here. We don't really use it, but you can if you're doing instrument flying. That gives us if we're going up or down. As you can see, the aircraft sitting, so it looks like we are going up at the moment. That blue will come down to 0 if we're flying in horizontal flight. So this is like a primitive instrument that you can use for instrument flying. There's our RPM gauge over there, and there's our oil pressure gauge over there. Don't have temperature or anything like that. Just these are the slots, lever. I push it forward and back, which is unlocked for takeoff and for landing. And on the top there in the front, you can see on the right and left, but there we'll look at the right, you see those little half moon shapes there?
Yeah.
That causes the slots to come out. And I'll show it to you. They pop out in flight. If you get too slow, so it prevents the stall. These are the slots. They'll pop out like that.
Okay.
So the wind gets forced around. to prevent the wing from stalling when you get too slow. So we use them on takeoff and landing. I do, not everybody does.
Okay.
Just trying to make it a bit safer, that's all.
Yes, yes.
So that's the inside cockpit checks pretty much done. And I'll have a look again, just to make sure I haven't missed anything. Everything's good. And I haven't put the fuel selector on yet. We'll do that once I've drained the fuel. So normally what you do is you start off at a point, and start off over here, making sure that all my little connections are good. All these little split pins are in. And what I like to do is go down and wobble them just to make sure that they're secure. As I'm doing that, I'm looking at split pins as we're going on the rudder, and I'll make sure this thing is nice and secure. And again, on the other side, I'll do the same. Wobble, wobble, make sure everything's nice and secure. Looking at the split pins, and I've also peeped down at the tail wheel, it looks good. Look underneath the split pins, they look good. Make sure that these, I don't know what they're called, but these struts over here are good. I'll come back to this end, I'll look, make sure my split pins are in. I don't want them to be out.
Okay.
Okay, so they're in. And then I'll always look up at these split pins up there to make sure that they're in.
Okay.
And then we can move over to the left wing here. And what you should do, before every flight, just give it a bit of a wobble. Make sure there's no crunching sounds. Something could have broken. Very unlikely because I don't do aerobatics.
Okay.
So nothing's broken. I come in moving up to this end. This is where I'm doing my fuel drain. So as you can see, I'm walking around doing a certain technique. So do the aft one first. Looking at the fuel, I can see there's no water in there. And the mid one. In some countries, they want you to have one on the right there as well.
Okay.
There's no fuel, and because of the bottom fuel tank, drain that one as well. And there's no water or dirt inside there. And then I always just chuck it into a tin. You can use it for cleaning stuff later, but don't chuck it out, out onto the concrete there, because that just pollutes everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It runs into water and stuff like that. You don't want that to happen. The next important thing is we're having a look inside here. I'll wait until you come around there before I do that. Opening up the cowl. Make my life easy, I'll just latch that down. This one doesn't have a little safety pin holding it there. So I mean, you'll see it on the other side. So I'll check that this is the distributor which gives the spark to the engine. I'll make sure all these are tight. I'll make sure that this is not loose. Next we give this a bit of a wobble. That's connected to our throttle linkage. Make sure that's secure, that it doesn't snap. And you've got your gasculator, which is this, catches all the dirt. We can't check that. You check it at every 25, 50 hours to make sure that there's no dirt inside the fuel. Very important before every flight. Check how much oil we got. As I lift it up, I know where the point is. I can see it, it's there, that's the halfway mark. You can keep it like a thumb or two above there, just depending, whatever you want. I'm going to put some oil inside there.
Oh, you're going to top it up.
Top up with some oil.
Okay.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
So you know how Ks you're doing on how many Ks?
Yeah.
Mine is how many hours?
Before each flight. Yeah, you know, because you can vary between different hours. But you know, usually like Conrad would have a idea of average burn per hour, and if he's been up 4 hours, then he'll know you have to top it up. It's been a while since I've flown a Tiger Moth, so I can't remember how much burn, but they do use quite a bit of oil.
Yeah, they can. You can use up to some 200 mils. That's an extremely good one. But they can even use up to a litre of oil per hour.
Okay.
Which is phenomenal. But they designed these things in the old days when there was enough oil and enough everything. You know, and it was designed with not longevity in sight. So we're using W100 oil. Okay. You can get W120 as well and 80 as well. But and you can get straight 100, but this is a W100. It's got a bit of a detergent in it.
Okay.
So I'm going to put 450 mils in there. It's got the markings on the side here.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a guess where you've got to stop it.
Okay.
That's almost half.
Because if you fill it for this sort of hour flight, it's just going to spit it out.
No, it doesn't really spit it out. Somebody says, people say it spits it out, but another chap who knows a lot about engines says it doesn't spit it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. unless you go inverted or something. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check it again. This can get a bit tricky, and then you've got to sort of look quickly, because now it's going from the dark to the light.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I can see it's just there, and my halfway mark's there, so I know when it settles it'll be good.
Okay.
And I'll just wipe that oil away. I think I've lost my cloth.
Now I see the oil tank, it sticks out a bit.
Yes, this is so it can cool. So there's no like a radiator or something or like
Yeah.
that cooling it. It's the wind that cools it.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the fuel selector on after I've closed this up. Go back round and put my fuel on. This is this little red. If you look inside there on the left, there's a little red knob which I have to push forward, right on the left there. Okay, yeah. And it clicks in onto like a little gate, so it doesn't vibrate backwards in flight. If it does, your fuel will switch off. You see that little red knob inside there?
Oh yes, yeah.
I'm going to push that forward and click it in, and then I'll
And I heard that was a mod they did after some years of,
Yes.
they found that,
Well, what was happening is when the Tigermoths first came here, they came with throttle and mixture.
oh yes,
And the people were pulling back the mixture, or they thought they were pulling back the mixture, and they're actually pulling the fuel selector off.
okay.
So they're taking almost all the mixtures off in Australian Tigermoths, and there are still some flying with them. So now, because there's no mixture, there's only one thing you'll be doing, but that model was already introduced to lock it, but it does vibrate backwards.
Yeah.
If that lock is not working, it will vibrate backwards, which could shut off your fuel or start to start the engine. So what we'll do now is move to the front. And what I do is I look down in the front here to make sure that the spark plugs are connected to the
Okay.
distributor cables.
Ah, yeah, that could vibrate off or something.
Yeah, they've all been lock wired. So they've all got a
Okay.
little wire on them, so they've been locked. And I feel the leading edge of the propeller, make sure it's nice and smooth. Noting that the magnetors were still off when you touch it. You've got to pretend that these things are live the whole time.
And that's vitally important.
Yes, because if that goes on, it won't be pretty. So the next thing we do is open the right hand side. As you see, this one's got a little safety pin holding it.
Yeah.
The reason being is you don't want that to fall out in flight and lock into some of your cables and whatever. So like the throttle is working onto the carburetor here, and you don't want that to lock there and interrupt it in flight. So the first thing I do is give the oil filter a turn, 8 turns.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what they call an auto clean oil filter. So let me just lock that in. It cleans itself. So 1, 2, do it 8 times.
And do you do that before every flight?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And that cleans the oil filter. And then at every annual, wherever the dirt goes in, that gets cleaned out. Again, I'm checking those 5 connections of the distributor, making sure that the cap is on. Checking my throttle linkages are all secure. Making sure my carburetor is secure, and then the tailpipes are secure. And as you can see, all the spark plugs have been lock wired in, and there's dual spark plugs. 2 distributors, left and right, so dual spark plugs. Okay, now we go up and make sure our fuel is good, that we've got fuel, and that the cap's not loose. Fuel cap is not loose. If your fuel cap's loose, it could suck out fuel, but it'll only get to a certain point, and then it'll stop sucking out fuel because the pressure's not high enough. So you should never really run out of fuel if
Okay.
you lose your fuel cap. But anyway,
You might get a bit of a spray, won't you?
you get a spray, but eventually it'll stop sucking because you need like a super force to suck it.
Okay.
And once the fuel gets to a certain level in this fuel tank, it's not going to suck it
Yeah,
out
yeah.
because the force is not strong enough. Nuki's not involved.
Okay, there we go. So it's a bit of a,
I'm taking this cap off, I'm going to peek inside. Yep, you can see the fuel still full.
okay.
And I have a fuel indicator at the back, and I'll show it to you when we get round. And I can check the second fuel tank, which is there. Might just do it out of interest sake. I'm going to get my dipstick.
What are the wings like? Are the wings metal, Herman, or are they?
No, that's it's a fabric called seconite.
Yep.
So it's like a drum, and they painted with dope, is it? And
Dope, yeah.
and
And this has got plywood underneath here. Some of them don't. Some of the original ones you could actually see the ribs.
yeah.
And that's seconite, but it's all timber inside there. Yeah, it's not metal. So this little dipstick I made. So I made sure the fuel tank was empty, and then put 10 litres in, and kept going until I got to the full mark, which is 45 litres. So if you want to go on a long flight, make sure you've got enough fuel. And this is our spare tank. This is the long range tank. So I put this in, I have a look, and it's sitting at, it's above 45. I always keep the fuel tank full.
Okay.
I've noticed with time, I think the fuel tank stretches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the fuel's got weight, you know.
I see.
The reason it started off at 45, but it's sitting around about 47 now.
So Conrad, do you just keep topping your fuel up, or do you ever just run it like down or clean out your fuel tanks or?
No, never really clean them out. Sometimes you have to clean them out. You're forced to. You don't really want to, but you have to. The main reason being is that those little fuel drains that I checked, they start to leak. They've got a little, it's like rubber, petrol resistant or fuel resistant rubber, like O-rings, but they can deteriorate. And once they start deteriorating, you start getting fuel dripping, so that means you have to replace them. But to do that, you have to drain the fuel tank.
Yep.
It's a misery. What I do is I look underneath here and make sure that you've got little tabs here, which make sure that they are locked.
Okay.
So the undercarriage doesn't collapse, because sometimes those bolts can vibrate out. And make sure that they are locked.
Oh, so you have a look at an undercarriage and the condition of the
Yeah,
wheels.
just the undercarriage, making sure the tyres are good. These tyres are still, they're pumped up. I pumped them about 2 flights ago. They're still good. Temperature can change them. You can make them go up or down.
Yeah.
Notice on a hotter day, maybe it's more flat. Colder day, they're more tight. Today's an average day, so they're looking good at the moment.
So there's no tread on the tyres?
No tread on the tyres. You can see just a little bit of grooves.
Yep.
But it's smooth. Main thing is the reason these used to land on grass runways initially.
Yep,
They used to
okay.
slide nicely on the grass because you didn't have to make a perfect landing.
Yes, and those tires, those grooves, it gives you indication of wear of the tire
That
as
is
well.
correct, yes.
Yeah.
Also, you get fine little cracks in the tyres which show you if they hold or not.
Yeah,
They might need to be
yeah.
replaced. Now we're looking at this. This is our airspeed indicator. Oh, well, it's not our airspeed indicator, it's inside there, but the wind blows in there and it gives us pressure, which moves the airspeed indicator. And also this here are what we call the static points. So you can get correct altitude and stuff like that. And here we've got our Venturi, which creates a vacuum which drives some of the instruments inside there. So this here is Venturi. It's a Venturi effect, first described by Bernoulli in about 1889, I can't remember when. But because of the small pressure, the air coming in there, and then the expansion, it can cause a vacuum, which this tube is then connected to the instruments.
I thought it was a horn. You know, like you'd be coming up and you want to let somebody know.
And again, I'm checking on the right hand side here, making sure that this is all good. And I'll walk back.
It does look a bit like a horn.
It'd be nice if you did. And I came back here and now I'm finished. And as I was going along, I was putting my tools away. And again, that fuel drain, it's not in my pocket anymore, so that's probably the most important thing out of everything, is to make sure that you drain the fuel, because otherwise, just off the takeoff, you could have a fuel failure. And this is pretty much it for the pre-flight.
Okay, no. Well, thanks for that. And I'll just leave it like that at the moment, and I'll be signing off. So Tony and Conrad are going to go up in the Tiger, and looks like a great day.
Yes, it's going to be a good day. Might get a little bit bumpy as the thermals pick up, but we'll be back by then.
And this is the first time, Tony, you're going up in a Tiger Moth.
The very first time.
Very first time.
I've been in a little T-seat, I've never been in a Tiger Moth. When you're a kid, when you look at planes, you look at planes like this. Everyone goes up in modern planes, but not many people get to go up there.
That's right.
Like an old plane, good plane, you know?
That's right.
Okay, folks, give a thumbs up. This is a good flight. As you know, it's always important to do a thorough one, and we'll speak to you later.